You're sitting on your couch, staring at a screen that offers you the entirety of human creativity for $10 a month. There are award-winning dramas, mind-bending sci-fi epics, and documentaries about people who build life-sized cathedrals out of toothpicks. The world is screaming at you to be current, to have an opinion on the latest viral hit, and to keep your brain fed with fresh, high-definition novelty. Your Netflix algorithm has practically staged an intervention, throwing 98% match suggestions at you like a desperate plea for help. And yet here you are, hovering over that familiar thumbnail for the 15th time. You know exactly what's going to happen. You know the jokes before they're told. You know the heartbreaks before the music swells, and you could probably recite the dialogue in your sleep. Your partner gives you that look, the one that says, "Again? Really?" Your kids think you're a relic of a bygone era because you're watching something filmed in a 4:3 aspect ratio. But as you hit play and that familiar theme song washes over you, something inside your chest finally loosens. You're not stuck in a loop, and you're definitely not boring. What's happening inside your brain is actually a sophisticated piece of psychological survival gear. That, let's be honest, the world out there is aggressively unpredictable. Every time you open your laptop or check your phone, you're met with a barrage of decisions and uncertainties. Your boss sends an email with a subject line that just says, "Quick chat," and suddenly your nervous system is in a tailspin. In a life where you never truly know how the day will end, there is a profound, almost primal power in knowing exactly how an episode of a sitcom from 2005 resolves. Psychologists call this the mere exposure effect. It's a fancy way of saying that our brains are wired to equate familiarity with safety. The more you see something, the more you like it, because your brain doesn't have to treat it as a potential threat. When you watch a new show, you are in high alert detective mode. You're scanning for subtext, trying to remember character names, and bracing yourself for a plot twist that might ruin your entire week. It's exhausting. It's another task on a never-ending to-do list. But rewatching, that is cognitive cruise control. It's the mental equivalent of a weighted blanket. Because you already know that Ross and Rachel get off the plane, you don't have to spend a single ounce of emotional energy worrying about them. You've already survived the emotional damage once. Now, you're just visiting old friends who can't let you down. There's a reason we call it comfort media. For a lot of us, our favorite show isn't just entertainment. It's an emotional reset button. We live in a culture that romanticizes the grind and the constant pursuit of the new in second. But we often forget that our nervous systems have a limited capacity for stimulation. Some people need a crowded bar to feel alive, but others, maybe you need the complete absence of pressure to regulate. When you choose Jim and Pam over 1,000 new options, you're not just being lazy. You're practicing what researchers call temporal discounting awareness. You're making a strategic choice for your future self. You're looking at your exhausted brain and saying, "I am not going to force you to process a complex murder mystery tonight. I am going to give you something where the jokes land, the good guys win, and everything is resolved in 22 minutes. It's about control." In your living room, you are the architect of the vibe. You control the lighting, the noise, and most importantly, the emotional outcome. It's a form of territorial comfort where your sanctuary remains undisturbed by the stress of the unknown. But here's where it gets even deeper. You aren't just watching the same pixels on a screen. You're engaging in a dialogue with your own history. Those shows are time capsules. When you put on that movie you loved in college, you aren't just seeing the actors. You're reconnecting with the person you were when you first saw it. You're remembering the roommate you shared that pizza with, the sister you sat with every Thursday night, or the parent who first introduced you to the classics. Sometimes, rewatching is a way of keeping someone close. If you watch the film your best friend loved because for 2 hours, it feels like they're sitting right there next to you again. It's a way of grieving, a way of remembering, and a way of grounding yourself in a world that moves too fast to care about where you've been. And let's be real for a second. Decision fatigue is a silent killer of joy. By the time you get home, you've probably made 7,000 choices what to wear, which emails to ignore, how to phrase a difficult text. The last thing you need is a "what should we watch?" debate that lasts longer than the actual show. Choosing the familiar is an act of efficiency. It's zero risk, maximum comfort, peak human intelligence. So, if you're currently on your 19th run-through of a show that ended a decade ago, stop apologizing for it. You're not stuck. You're actually engaging in a psychologically beneficial practice that promotes emotional stability and strengthens your sense of identity through meaningful narrative repetition. You're protecting your peace, and in a world this loud, that's not just a quirk, it's a superpower. But even within that repetition, something strange is happening. Because while the show stays the same, you don't. And that is where the real magic of the rewatch begins to reveal itself. You might think you're seeing the exact same thing every time the credits roll, but that's the ultimate psychological illusion. The script is frozen in time, the actors haven't aged a day on screen, and the jokes haven't changed a single syllable. But you have. Every time you return to a story, you're bringing a brand new version of yourself to the table. You're not looking at the adventure, you're looking at the weight of legacy and the terrifying reality of mortality. You find yourself crying in the first 10 minutes because you finally understand the subtext of every word spoken about time and duty. The film didn't get sadder, you just grew into the shoes of the characters you used to look up to. This is what psychologists call new emotional unlocks. We use these familiar narratives as a yardstick to measure our own growth. When you rewatch The Matrix, your first viewing might have been all about the cool fight scenes and the bullet time. Years later, it hits you as an uncomfortably accurate metaphor for choosing the safety of comfort over the harshness of truth. You're not just watching a movie, you're auditing your own soul through a different lens. There's also a deeply social, almost spiritual layer to this habit that we rarely discuss. These shows and movies are more than just digital files, they are time capsules. When you rewatch a specific series, you aren't just visiting a fictional world, you're visiting the person you were when that show first mattered to you. You're reconnecting with the version of yourself that watched it with a sister every Thursday night, back when you actually had to be home at a specific time to catch it live. Sometimes, we rewatch because we are grieving, that we're keeping someone close through the shared experience of a story we both loved. Maybe it's the parent who introduced you to Groundhog Day or the friend who moved across the country. For those 2 hours, the distance disappears. It's a way of remembering, a way of grounding yourself in a world that is constantly shifting beneath your feet. Beyond the nostalgia, there's the raw science of emotional regulation. When the world feels like total chaos, and let's be honest, when does it not your brain desperately needs something stable? You need a place where the good guys win, the jokes land, and every single conflict resolves itself within a predictable time frame. Dr. Pamela Rutledge has pointed out that rewatching familiar content is a form of self-soothing that actively reduces anxiety by providing a sense of control. It's like a weighted blanket for your brain. You get to experience safe sadness. You can cry during that one scene in Toy Story 3 that destroys everyone, but you can do it because you know you'll be okay by the time the credits roll. You aren't avoiding new experiences. You are actively, intelligently choosing peace. You're engaging in a practice that promotes emotional stability and strengthens your sense of identity through narrative repetition. So, the next time someone rolls their eyes because you've put on When Harry Met Sally for the 15th time, don't feel like you have to defend your taste. You aren't stuck in the past, and you aren't broken. You are simply returning to a companion that has shaped who you are. Your comfort show isn't a crutch, it's a reminder of who you were, who you are today, and the person you're still becoming. There is nothing wrong with exploring the unknown, but there is something profoundly radical about returning home to the stories that make you feel human again. Life is complicated enough. You're allowed to enjoy the consistency of a world where you already know the ending. I am curious, what is that one show for you? The one that feels like a warm house on a cold night? The one you can't help but press play on, even when you know every line by heart? Would you like me to help you analyze the specific psychological triggers of your favorite comfort show?